This is Serious Drama. And you know, it's kind of funny though, is I was thinking today, sometimes I get overly critical of my followers on Twitter, of some of my subscribers, some of my friends over Xbox Live. And I need to remember that they're really young. And at one time I was really, really young too. I mean, it was a long time ago, but I was really, really young. So I started to think, a lot of times people will say things or make videos about certain things, and I'll think to myself, my gosh, that is so immature, right? And here I am, an old guy calling a young guy immature, when actually they're really actually acting their age. And I think back to when I was that age, when I was young, and all the dumb things that I did and said, and it's just really, really bad. And thank goodness that back in those times there wasn't any Facebook or Twitter, because I think I would have been like the biggest tool on the planet. I mean, I was such a weirdo. And I'm going to give you a couple of things that I used to do that were really just odd behavior. But at the time it seemed perfectly normal. You know what I used to do? Is any of you guys ever heard of the TV show called Happy Days? Well, it was a TV show, the Fonz and so on and so forth. Well, there was a character on it by the name of Chachi Arcola, and he used to wear a bandana around his thigh. So I got into a phase when I was really young of wearing a bandana around my thigh. And thinking about it, like, oh my God, what an idiot I must have looked like. But I used to do it, and it was religiously I used to do it. I used to do it all the time. And people would stare at my leg every once in a while, and every once in a while they'd say, "Hey, did you hurt yourself?" I think they thought I had like a tourniquet or something around my thigh, but it was like a fashion statement. Another thing I used to do is I used to wear like Quiet Riot t-shirts and Rat t-shirts, or like rock metal bands or something, right? And it kind of like I was in a band, and although I wasn't, but I used to wear outfits as though I was in a band. And you know how you've seen those kids like in high school, at least I used to see them, where they had drumsticks in their back pocket, and you almost thought to yourself, do they really play the drums? Well, I was even more of a douche. I didn't have drumsticks in the back of my pocket. I had 2 number 2 pencils in the back of my pocket as if they were drumsticks. And I walk around with them like I was some cool band member. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking. What other douchey stuff did I do? Well, one time I had this really sweet, nice Japanese girlfriend. And I'll never forget her. She was the sweetest person ever. And I was such a tool that I broke up with her for the stupidest reason of all time. After PE one day, I took a look at her, and I noticed something. I noticed her armpits were sweating. Her armpits were sweat. On her shirt, you could see the outline of sweat. And I was so bothered by that, the next day, I broke up with her. Yeah, that's what a douche I was. I mean, come on, right? I mean, that is probably, I don't know, that's at an all-time level of doucheness to break up with somebody because they were sweating. But that's what I did. I mean, I was that much of a fool. What else? Me and a buddy of mine went to Thrifty's. Back then it was called Thrifty's. I think now it's called like Rite Aid or something similar, like a convenience store, right? And we decided to buy some cologne. And I bought some cologne, and he bought some. It was Canoe, and it was cologne called Dynamic. I mean, it was like $5 a bottle, if that, right? So what did we do? The next day, we took him to school, and we told this massive lie that my father came back from France and brought us this really super expensive cologne that was $1,000 a bottle. And mine was called Canaway, and his was called Dynamique. And, of course, some douchebag in the class is like, wait a minute, that's Canoe, and that's not Dynamique, that's Dynamic. And we're like, dude, bro, no, this is imported, man, this is expensive stuff. And all the girls and everything gathered around us, and we were like big shots, and it was just some of the douchiest things we used to do. Later on in life, a little bit later, I was still young though, the band Pearl Jam was really, really popular, right? And what did I do is I wore shorts every day with a flannel tied around my waist every single day for about a year. Well, I don't know if it was a year, probably about 6 months. And I think back and I see pictures of that stuff. And yeah, if I was really brave, I would post pictures of it. But my God, I mean, what a tool I was. I used to do some of the douchiest things. You remember the movie The Karate Kid? Ralph Macchio was in it, right? Well, a lot of people used to tell me when I was young that I look like Ralph Macchio. A lot of people used to tell me that, right? So, I guess it was a compliment, I suppose, right? Because he was pretty popular when that movie came out. And I took it an extra level. What I did is I went to the same thrifties and bought those teen magazines with him in the cover, right? Put him in my backpack, and what I would do is every once in a while, like if I was at lunch or in the library or whatever, I kind of just randomly bring them out and say, oh goodness, who put these in my bag? It must have been one of my cousins or something. Just because I wanted to show the picture of Ralph Macchio on the cover so everybody could say, oh, you look just like him, in a way to get like popular or something. I mean, just a complete idiotic thing to do, but I did it. And so anyway, it finally occurred to me at one point, I'm sitting there in the cafeteria at school, and I looked at myself through the reflection of the glass, and I looked at my friends. One of my friends had like a long ducktail in the back, and it was bleached orange or red or blonde, some weird color. I looked at my other friend, he had his flannel tied around his waist, and I started to think to myself, gosh, we are just complete nerds that are trying not to be nerds, and this is ridiculous. I'm going to change my ways. And it kind of, something just hit me. And that was like in about, I think, the 8th grade or so. And I said to myself, I'm going to change. My freshman year in high school, I'm going to completely change. I'm going to completely be my own person, not worry about being popular anymore, not worry about all these things that I used to care about. And it kind of sucked. My freshman year in high school really kind of sucked hard. I was more so a loner than I had ever been in my life. And I kind of equate it to completely changing who you are, kind of like if we're Call of Duty players, right? And if we're going to go play Halo, right, we're going to suck. And it's going to be really uncomfortable, and we're going to have to go through that process all over again of learning the way it's played, the way you shoot, the way you maneuver around the map, how long it takes to kill somebody. But once you get through that growing period, maybe it's going to take 3 months of you're just getting owned day in and day out, having people in the lobby saying how much you suck and everything else, right? But then you kind of get used to it, and you learn from it, and you kind of develop a new way of playing, new play style, and you fall in love with the game, or you don't, or you go back to your old ways. Well, I fortunately kind of changed and more or less became like my own person, stopped going with the trends. And but yeah, there was a point in my life where I was a major douchebag, but now I'm awesome, right? Yeah, I like to think so. This has been Serious Drama. Be kind, be good, be safe. I am out.